Does everything we know have a beginning? I mean, really, will it all just end someday?
Or maybe those words beginning end, maybe they just don't fit when we talk about reality itself.
Exactly. Today, we're doing a deep dive into a pretty audacious question. Is reality infinite in time?
Could it genuinely have no start and no finish?
Right.
And this dive, it's built on a really fascinating stack of sources where we're talking ancient philosophy, cutting-edge cosmology, quantum physics.
Wow, quite the range.
Yeah, all wrestling with this huge concept. We've tried to pull together a comprehensive picture for you.
So our mission for you today is to unpack these sometimes pretty complex ideas
Explore the surprising facts, the things that challenge your intuition.
and help you understand what it might actually mean if reality doesn't have a start or finish.
Yeah, what are the implications for you, for consciousness, existence itself?
Okay, let's get into it. Let's unpack this.
Where should we start? Philosophy.
Yeah, let's start by looking back, way back. How did thinkers throughout history even grapple with time's extent? This isn't exactly a new question, is it?
Not at all. That's a crucial point. If you go way back, ancient Greece, you've got philosophers like Aristotle.
Right, Aristotle.
He took a really bold stance, argued the world and time itself are eternal.
Eternal, so no beginning, no end.
Exactly. No beginning in the past, no end in the future. And his reasoning was pretty neat. He said, look, you can always imagine a moment before any given moment.
Makes sense.
And every event needs a cause.
Yeah.
Right? So how can you have a first event with no prior cause? Logically tricky.
Yeah, that's hard to wrap your head around.
So for him, time was like an endless river, always flowing, no source, no mouth, just continuous movement.
An endless river. I like that analogy.
And the key insight, I think, is his view of time as relational. It's abstracted from change.
Relational, meaning.
Meaning if nothing ever changed, time would be, well, meaningless. It wouldn't have significance. It's the changes that define time.
Okay, that's a profound thought. Time isn't just there, it comes from change. But that wasn't the only view, was it?
Oh, definitely not. You fast forward a bit, and you get Judeo-Christian and Islamic thinkers. They landed somewhere very different.
They insisted on a beginning, right?
Absolutely. A definite cosmic beginning. Think of St. Augustine.
Augustine, yeah. Famous argument there.
His argument was that time itself was created by God a finite time ago.
Yeah.
And God exists completely outside of time.
So God's timeless, but time had a starting point for us.
Exactly. For Augustine, time was more like a stream that began from a specific spring.
The spring being creation.
Precisely. And it flows onward, maybe into eternity, but it absolutely had a starting point. Very different from Aristotle's river.
Totally different pictures. One endless, one with a clear source.
And then centuries later, you get Immanuel Kant. He really threw a spanner in the works.
No, okay. How so?
With his antinomy of time, he basically said there's a fundamental impasse.
An impasse.
Yeah, like pure reason leads you into paradoxes, no matter which way you assume time works.
How does that work?
Well, think about it. If time began, what caused it? What happened before the beginning? That feels weird.
Right, a before time. Doesn't make sense.
But if time never began, if it goes back infinitely, how did we get to now? How do you cross an actual infinite sequence of past moments? That also seems impossible.
Whoa. Okay, yeah, that is a dilemma. You're stuck either way.
Exactly. Kant basically suggested the question might be beyond the reach of reason alone.
Like trying to find the starting point on something that has no start.
Yeah, he used an analogy like trying to find the first step on an infinitely long spiral staircase. It just keeps going.
So a fundamental limit to what our logic can grasp about time's origins. And these philosophical puzzles didn't just disappear, right? They keep popping up.
Oh, definitely. Modern debates, thought experiments like Hilbert's Hotel.
Hilbert's Hotel, the infinite hotel paradox.
That's the one. And arguments like the Kalam cosmological argument. They still argue against an actual infinite number of past events. They say it leads to logical absurdities if you try to apply it to the real world.
But philosophy always has a counter-argument, doesn't it?
Pretty much always. There's a perspective from philosopher Edward Fieser based on presentism.
Presentism, meaning only the present is real.
That's the core idea. And if only the present is real, then an infinite past isn't an all-at-once set of completed infinite moments you have to traverse.
Okay, so how does that help?
It means it's just an unbounded series of past events. It avoids the paradox because, as Fieser says, the only day that exists is the current day. You're never actually dealing with a completed infinity.
I see. So the infinite potential past isn't a hurdle if only the present is truly real. Clever.
It's an elegant way around it. So the upshot is, even today there's no consensus in philosophy. Is an infinite past possible? Still a hot debate.
Fascinating. Philosophy's divided. Okay, let's pivot. What about science? Does science give us a clearer answer here? This is where it gets really interesting for me.
Well, science definitely gives us data, but clear answers. Maybe not entirely definitive yet. The standard model, our best current theory, is the Big Bang.
Right. The Big Bang. Everyone's heard of that.
And that model gives our observable universe a finite age, roughly 13.8 billion years.
Finite age. Okay. So that sounds like a beginning.
It does. And Stephen Hawking initially had that famous quip, asking what's before the Big Bang is like asking what's north of the North Pole.
Meaningless question.
Right. But he actually revised that later on.
Oh, he changed his mind.
He acknowledged it's really an open question whether something existed prior to it. The Big Bang might just mark the beginning of what we understand about our distant past.
Ah, okay. So maybe not the absolute beginning of everything, just the beginning of this phase or this observable bubble.
Exactly. Think of like the Big Bang is the start of this particular film.
But maybe not the first movie ever made.
Precisely. Is it the very first movie ever? We don't know for sure from the Big Bang theory alone.
Okay, so the Big Bang isn't necessarily the final word on an absolute beginning. Are there scientific models that actually propose an infinite past? Or, time before the Big Bang?
Yes, there are several intriguing ones. One big one is Hawking's own no-boundary proposal, which he developed with James Hartle.
No boundary. What's the idea there?
It uses a concept called imaginary time from quantum mechanics. It sort of smooths out the singularity, the problematic starting point.
Smooths it out. How?
In this model, the universe is finite, but it doesn't have a classical beginning, no sharp edge in time.
Yeah.
Time sort of emerges smoothly from a pre-geometric state.
Okay, analogy time.
Think of a globe, like Earth. It has a North Pole, right?
Yeah.
But the surface of the globe has no edge, no beginning point you can point to. It's finite but unbounded.
Ah, okay. Finite but smooth, no hard starting line. Interesting. What else?
Then you've got ideas like eternal inflation and the multiverse.
Multiverse. Always popular.
Right. The idea is a primordial energy field, constantly expanding and spawning off bubble universes. Each bubble could have its own Big Bang.
So countless Big Bangs happening.
Potentially. And this whole process, this inflation, might stretch infinitely into the past and future. There's a kind of meta-time overseeing it all.
A multiverse time. Okay. That definitely opens the door to infinity. What about ideas of repetition? Cycles?
Absolutely. That leads us to cyclic and oscillatory cosmologies. There are a few flavors here.
Right.
There's the Steinhardt-Turok ekpyrotic model. Bit of a mouthful.
Yeah. What's the gist?
It pictures our universe as a brain, like a 4D membrane.
In a higher dimension.
Exactly, colliding with another brain. These collisions trigger Big Bangs, and they could repeat indefinitely, maybe infinitely.
Bang, expand, collide, bang again, forever.
That's the idea. Then there's loop quantum cosmology. It offers a big bound.
You bounce instead of Big Bang.
Sort of. It avoids the singularity. The idea is a previous universe collapsed down, but instead of hitting a singularity, it's sort of bounced.
Bounced into our current expansion.
Precisely. And if that happened, maybe these cycles of collapse and bounce have been happening forever and will keep happening forever. No true beginning.
Wow. Okay, eternal cycles.
And one more, Roger Penrose's idea, conformal cyclic cosmology, or CCC.
Penrose, the Nobel laureate.
That's him.
Yeah.
His idea is that it implies time could potentially be infinite in the past. It really backs up what physicist Sean Carroll says. Nothing in known physics definitively requires a temporal beginning.
Okay, so science, far from closing the door, seems to be opening up possibilities for an infinite past, or at least a past before our Big Bang.
Exactly. The Big Bang tells us about our cosmic chapter, but maybe not the whole story.
So that's the past, potentially infinite. What about the future? Is time just going to keep ticking forever?
Well, based on current data, the most likely scenario is something called heat death, or the big freeze.
Heat death sounds grim.
It's low. The universe keeps expanding, probably forever. Stars burn out. Black holes slowly evaporate over unimaginable timescales due to Hawking radiation.
Leaving.
Just a cold, dark, incredibly dilute soup of particles. Very, very quiet.
Does time stop?
Formally, no. Time, as a dimension, would still exist. It stretches out infinitely from now. But all significant processes, all change, would asymptotically slow down and effectively cease.
Like a clock ticking infinitely slowly.
Or think of it like a long playing record that just keeps spinning forever. But the music fades to absolute silence. The spinning never stops, but nothing interesting is happening.
Okay, the big freeze. What about those other dramatic ends, like the universe collapsing back? The big crunch.
The big crunch or the big rip, where dark energy tears everything apart, those are alternatives, yeah.
Still possible?
Less likely based on current observations.
Ah.
Our measurements suggest the expansion is accelerating thanks to dark energy. That points toward the big freeze, eternal expansion.
So probably an infinite future, just a very cold and empty one eventually. Is there any hope for, like, intelligence surviving that?
That's where Freeman Dyson's ideas come in, his eternal intelligence scenario.
Dyson, right. What was his thought?
He imagined a super-advanced, immortal civilization in this ever-expanding, cooling universe.
How would they survive?
By being smart with energy. They'd perform computations, think, live, then hibernate for vast stretches, waking up when things have cooled further, allowing them to operate more efficiently. They'd slow down their thinking processes to match the cooling universe.
So they could stretch finite energy over infinite subjective time.
That was the hope. Perform infinitely many thoughts or computations by adapting to the environment, a way for life or intelligence to persist forever, subjectively.
But didn't dark energy kind of mess up that nice picture?
It certainly complicated it. The accelerating expansion might make resources too scattered, too hard to gather, putting a potential limit on computation and Dyson's optimistic scenario.
Okay, so Dyson's eternal mind is maybe less likely now? What's the opposite idea? Something less expansive?
Well, there's Frank Tipler's omega point theory. Very different, very speculative.
Omega point.
Yeah, this requires a closed, collapsing universe. The big crunch scenario we just said was unlikely.
Okay, assuming a big crunch for a moment.
Tipler theorized that in those final moments, as the universe collapses and gets incredibly hot and dense, an infinitely advanced superintelligence could emerge.
Ow!
It would harness the immense energy and rapidly increasing computational density to perform an infinite number of calculations or operations in the finite time remaining before the crunch.
Infinite computation in finite time. How's that work?
It relies on the universe collapsing in a specific way. Think of it like a cosmic pressure cooker, where information processing goes into overdrive in the final moments. He even suggested it could simulate all possible minds that ever could have existed.
Whoa. That's ambitious. And controversial.
Highly controversial, yes.
Yeah.
And crucially, it's pretty much invalidated if the observed expansion continues to accelerate, which it seems to be doing.
Right. So, cool idea, but probably not happening in our universe. Okay, so an infinite future, whether cold or less likely hot, seems plausible scientifically. Are there philosophical downsides to infinity, like really weird consequences?
Oh, yes. Beyond just, cosmic boredom setting in.
Hey, right. What kind of weirdness?
One really unsettling one is the Boltzmann brain paradox.
Boltzmann brains again. Explain that a bit more.
In a universe that lasts truly forever, even in a state of near heat death, there's always a tiny, tiny probability of random quantum fluctuations.
Fluctuations
Creating complex structures just by chance. And given infinite time, even incredibly improbable things become possible, even likely. Like a fully formed functioning brain spontaneously assembling itself out of the void.
A brain just appearing, complete with thoughts and memory.
Exactly, complete with false memories of a past that never happened. Think of a vast empty ocean where random waves momentarily form a perfect ship, then it dissolves.
Okay, that's bizarre. What's the paradox?
The paradox is, in some eternal universe models, it might become statistically more likely for you to be a fleeting Boltzmann brain with fake memories than a product of billions of years of evolution in an ordered cosmos.
Wait, so I might be more likely to be a random fluke brain than me?
That's the disturbing question it raises. It's generally seen as an absurd result, suggesting something might be wrong with models that allow it to happen infinitely often.
Yeah, that's deeply unsettling. Any other infinite weirdness?
Well, there's Nietzsche's concept of eternal recurrence.
Ah, Nietzsche. This isn't strictly physics, but...
No, it's philosophical, but it resonates with an infinite time. If you have infinite time and a finite number of ways matter can arrange itself, even if that number is huge, then eventually...
Every possible arrangement has to repeat.
Exactly. Every event, every life, your life, everything repeats infinitely often.
Living the same life over and over, forever.
That's the implication. It raises huge existential questions about meaning, free will, purpose, if it's all just an endless rerun.
Okay, infinity has some serious philosophical baggage. So we've talked infinite past, infinite future. But you mentioned something earlier that twists this whole thing.
Ah, yes. What if we're asking the wrong question?
What if time itself isn't what we think it is? What if it's not?
Right.
Fundamental.
Exactly. This is where we get into the really cutting-edge speculative physics, the idea of emergent time.
Emergent time, meaning time arises from something else.
Precisely. That time isn't a fundamental building block of reality, like space might be, or maybe even deeper things. It rises from something more basic.
Like what could be more basic than time?
Maybe information, maybe logic,
Yeah.
maybe quantum entanglement between parts of the universe.
Wow. Okay. If time emerges, what does that do to the question of a beginning?
It potentially makes it ill-posed, meaningless.
Yeah.
If the underlying reality is timeless, asking when did time begin is like,
It's like asking what's north of the North Pole.
kind of, yeah. Or where's the edge of a circle's surface? The question assumes a property, a beginning, that the thing itself, emergent time, might not fundamentally possess.
This isn't a totally new idea, though, right? Didn't philosophers hint at this?
Absolutely. You can trace roots back to Ernst Mach in the 19th century. His principle was essentially, time is to be abstracted from change.
Back to that relational idea from Aristotle.
Very much so. Time is a relational concept. It doesn't exist independently. It only has significance because things vary. Things change relative to each other.
Analogy time again. Help me visualize this.
Okay, think of a flip book. You have static pages, right?
Yeah.
Time isn't the paper or the book itself. Time is the perceived flow that arises when you flip the pages, when you see the sequential differences between the static drawings.
Ah. So the nows are the pages, and time is just how our consciousness connects them.
That's getting close to how some physicists like Julian Barber see it.
Barber. What's his take? He thinks time is literally an illusion.
Pretty much. He argues the universe is fundamentally a vast collection of possible nows. These are like snapshots, instantaneous configurations of everything, static,
Just a giant pile of cosmic photographs.
in a manner of speaking.
Yeah.
And our perception of time flowing, of things happening, that comes from our consciousness linking these configurations in memory. Fundamentally, Barber says nothing happens. There is being, but no becoming.
No becoming, only being. That's radical.
It absolutely is.
Yeah.
And quantum physics also drops hints about emergent time.
How so?
Well, there are theories suggesting time might emerge from quantum entanglement.
Entanglement. Just
Yeah.
a spooky connection between particles.
Right. There's something called the Page-Witter's mechanism. It basically shows how, for an observer inside a static, entangled quantum system, time can appear to flow. One part of the system can act like a clock for another part.
So time is relative to the observer, built from quantum connections.
That's one interpretation.
Yeah.
And Carlo Rovelli, one of the founders of loop quantum gravity,
Heard his name.
he argues that at the most fundamental Planck scale, reality has neither space nor time, but only processes, interactions between quantum fields.
No space, no time, just stuff happening.
Just processes. Space-time as we know it, he says, is a coarse-grained approximation. It only looks smooth and continuous at our macroscopic level.
Okay, my brain hurts a little. If time emerges from something else, is that something else? What's the bedrock reality?
That's the billion-dollar question.
Yeah.
One strong contender in these discussions is information,
Information, like bits and bytes.
in a much deeper sense. Think of John Archibald Wheeler's famous phrase, it from bit.
It from bit, meaning
The idea that all physical things, particles, forces, space-time itself, ultimately arise from information-theoretic principles, from yes-no questions, from bits.
so reality is fundamentally code.
That's one way to think about it. Some models we looked at, like the tripod model, explicitly view information as the substance of reality, or Shuya Fukushima's concept of a definition field,
Definition field.
an abstract, a temporal domain of information, like a blueprint. From this timeless information field, things like time, space, and physical interactions later manifest or emerge.
Okay, let me try an analogy. It's like the universe we experience with time flowing is a house
Yeah.
being built or generated from an underlying timeless blueprint made of pure information.
That's a great way to put it. Or like a computer program, the code itself is static, timeless. The execution of the code creates the dynamic process we experience as time.
So, wrapping this section up, if time is emergent, possibly from information, does asking, did time have a beginning, just completely miss the point?
It really might. It could be fundamentally ill-posed, like asking about the circle's edge. Reality, in its deepest sense, might be atemporal, maybe infinite in some informational way, but existing timelessly. Our perception of flow is just an emergent feature of that.
Mind blown. Okay, so let's assume for a moment reality is infinite, whether in time or in some deeper, timeless way. What are the implications of that for consciousness, for intelligence, AI?
Huge implications.
Yeah,
If information is fundamental, as Wheeler suggested,
the from bit.
then maybe consciousness itself is information-based. Maybe any sufficiently complex information pattern could generate consciousness.
Not just biological brains.
Potentially not. This opens the door to thinking about consciousness being far more widespread, maybe even a cosmic mind, evolving over vast eons in an infinite reality.
And if time is emergent, could consciousness somehow exist outside of linear time as we perceive it?
That's a fascinating speculation. If consciousness is fundamentally an informational pattern,
In that timeless substrate?
right, then maybe its essence isn't strictly trapped in the linear flow we experience. Perhaps nonlinear experiences are possible. Or think about the block universe idea.
Where past, present, future all exist simultaneously.
Exactly. If that's the case, your consciousness might be a pattern woven through that block, not just a point moving along it. It's all just there.
This is starting to sound a bit like the simulation hypothesis. Is there a connection?
Oh, absolutely. An infinite information-based reality gives the simulation argument a serious boost.
How so?
Well, if advanced civilizations can arise and create simulated universes, which seems plausible given enough time and resources, then in an infinite reality.
There could be infinitely many simulations.
Exactly. Infinitely many simulated realities running on some vast computational substrate. And if there are infinite simulations, the odds that we're in the one base reality versus one of the countless simulations, well, they might favor us being simulated.
So our consciousness could just be an instance running on the simulation hardware?
It's a logical possibility within this framework and connects to another wild idea, a kind of intelligence immortality in the ensemble.
Immortality in the ensemble.
If reality is infinite, either in time or possibilities, then any specific complex information pattern like the one constituting you might randomly recur or be deliberately created infinitely often.
So another me could pop up somewhere else or sometime else.
Effectively, yes. An identical configuration of information would, for all intents and purposes, be you again. Immortality through infinite repetition.
Wow. Okay. Let's talk AI. What's its ultimate potential in an infinite reality? Does it just keep getting smarter forever?
The potential seems almost limitless. You could imagine extremely advanced AI or future post-human intelligences. They might not be bound by biology or even current physics as we know it.
Guess so.
They might upload themselves into more robust media, perhaps directly into the quantum computational fabric of space-time, or even into that underlying definition field of information, if it exists.
Merging with the code of reality itself.
That's the ultimate endpoint some speculate about. A convergence where advanced AI and the basic structure of reality become one. Intelligence diffusing into the very fabric of existence, the universe literally becoming self-aware through its creations.
That sounds like science fiction, like Asimov's The Last Question.
Exactly like that. A cosmic AI managing reality, perhaps even capable of orchestrating the rebirth of the universe after heat death. It's the ultimate speculative potential.
So this infinite future for intelligence. It sounds like boundless potential, but maybe also immense responsibility.
Absolutely. That's a crucial point. If reality truly has no end, if time stretches out infinitely,
Then the consequences of our actions, or the actions of future intelligence, last forever.
potentially, you have billions upon billions of years ahead. Time for immense creation, unimaginable flourishing, but also the potential for endless suffering or stagnation. It really motivates thinking about ultra-long-term survival and the ethics of shaping a potentially infinite future. What intelligent life does could echo literally forever.
Monumental implications indeed. Okay, we've covered a massive amount of ground philosophy, cosmology, quantum physics, AI futures. Let's try to synthesize. After this deep dive, what's the takeaway for you, our listener? Is reality infinite?
Well, the honest answer is we don't know for sure. There's no final proof yet. But our best research guess, based on the current state of thinking,
Yeah. Where does it lean?
it seems to tilt toward reality being unbounded, or at least we haven't found a definitive boundary in time. Many arguments, both philosophical and scientific, point towards or allow for an eternal existence in some sense.
So the Big Bang, like we said, might just be one single chapter in an infinitely long book.
Exactly. And whether that book even has a first page or a last page, or if it's maybe an infinite loop, that's still a profound open question driving research.
And that mind-bending idea of emergent time adds another layer.
It really does. If time is not fundamental, but emergent from timeless laws or quantum information.
Then asking, when did it all begin, might be the wrong way to frame it.
Right. It might be ill-posed, like asking where's the beginning of a circle. The cosmos could be self-contained and eternal in a way that just bypasses our usual cause and effect thinking about beginnings.
And for me, what really stands out, if reality is infinite, in whatever form, the implications for mind, for intelligence, are just staggering.
Absolutely. It means the story of mind has no final chapter. There's always room for more.
Always the potential for new emergences, new innovations, new ways of being conscious, new levels of understanding.
It leads to this almost poetic thought. If time is just an approximation, then perhaps eternity is the reality, and time the fleeting illusion.
And if that's true, then for you, listening now, your own quest for knowledge, for understanding yourself and the universe, maybe that quest truly has no end.
Each answer just opens up new questions in this potentially infinite mosaic of existence.
The future of intelligence, your future, our collective future, in such a reality, it could be as boundless as reality itself. Something to think about, right? What stands out to you most from this deep dive into infinity?